Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Len, clinical psychologist. I am so excited to share that I am starting a new venture called the Lumen Project. I get so many questions about all of the different esoteric practices that I try, and everyone always asks me, what is it that really works? So today we're going to dive into this new direction and I'm going to answer all of your questions. Let's get cozy. I think many of my clients don't talk about how lonely they feel. So many of them have people around them, even partners or colleagues, friends. But the way that we interact these days is really through screens. I think as well, after COVID, we really started to separate ourselves from community a bit more, working alone behind a laptop. So I feel a lot of people are starved of that real human connection and support, reliable support. And I think that's why they end up coming to a therapist because they feel they can be vulnerable and emotional to a therapist without having to burden their friends or loved ones. Yes. So I am a clinical psychologist, but I've always felt a bit different from my peers. So, what I love about clinical psychology is that it's evidence based and it's scientific. But I think what it lacks for me is it's not always very multicultural, or it doesn't always look at these esoteric practices and really analyze them. So there's a strong Western medicine drive behind what we do. And I'm very curious. So I always want to see, okay, well, what else? What else could work? You know, if people are taking ayahuasca, for example, and reporting amazing transformations, I kind of want to understand what's the mechanism behind that? How does it really work? And, thinking about Wim Hof, for example, and breath work, he's had a global impact on people's well-being. And I've really been interested in how that's a strong alternative to talking therapy, like body therapy. I've never had any healing practice backfire on me, but I think there are some practitioners that overpromise and underdeliver. You know, they often say, "Oh, one session with me, and it will be the equivalent of 2 years of therapy. You know, I can heal your trauma instantly." And I think some of these claims can be a little bit misleading. So, for example, with some of my clients, they have expected instant change, and maybe they felt that instant change in the moment, but after about 2 weeks, maybe they've resorted back to their own patterns. Now, that's not to say that these healers or whatever are charlatans and just fakes, but I do think that there can be a risk to going into something really blindly and pinning all of your hopes on one thing. The other thing I see is that some people pay a lot of money to get trained in a particular modality, and over time, that practitioner, the main practitioner, begins to get more and more diluted in the training. And sometimes it feels a bit like a Ponzi scheme or a pyramid scheme, where you're paying all this money to get the training, then you're paying more money every year for an annual subscription, and then you're paying money to be on the directory. And it just doesn't feel like transformation therapy anymore. It starts to feel like a money-making machine. It's difficult to know if you are dealing with a charlatan or a transformational energy healer. They can look basically the same. And I think that's the whole point about Lumen Project, is that as a very objective, curious, open-minded person with no real agenda, I want to go and experience all these different things. So if you watch me and you can see me crying, or you can see that transformation, you might then be interested. And everyone's going to need different things at different times as well. So that's really also why I want to show you different modalities. A lot of successful people are miserable, and I think there can be a whole range of different reasons. So, the first one is that in Western society, success is often monetary. Um, there's only so much happiness you can get from money. Once your basic needs are met, all the evidence shows that it doesn't matter whether you have £100,000 or £100 million. It really doesn't have a strong correlation to your happiness. Um, I think another thing is that a lot of people are living life out of balance. So, some very successful people, luckily, can hang out all day on their yacht and they can relax, but some of them are quite chained to their work and they neglect their family or they neglect their spiritual journey as well. So, they're out of balance. So it's a bit controversial, but there's nothing wrong with traditional therapy. But what I'm interested in is how you level up, how you find deep transformation. Sometimes therapy is focusing more on fixing problems rather than on enhancing the positives. Of course, there is a whole branch of psychology, which is positive psychology, looking at your inner strengths and setting goals and things like that. But what I've become more and more interested in is how you change at that energetic level. So, almost this next frontier of change that I think traditional therapy doesn't address. So, yeah, more and more of us are understanding that we can't talk our way out of changing our nervous system. So, it may help a tiny bit to tell ourselves, like, okay, just relax or whatever. But if you're holding on to physical stress or anxiety, you're in fight or flight, one of the most effective ways of releasing it is through movement, through shaking. You know, if an animal's being chased through the savannah and narrowly escapes, it will shake for about 5 minutes until all that adrenaline washes through. And I think what we're trained to do these days is just hold on, keep tight, keep looking okay, tell everyone you're okay. And I think let's strip it back. The body's trying to communicate something, and let's move our bodies and respond in that way to release any tension that we don't need anymore and that's not serving us. The biggest misconception people have is that it's just fluffy woo woo stuff. I honestly believe that there can be deep transformation that happens on an energetic or mystical level. Just because we don't understand it doesn't mean that it's not happening. And again, it's a really big reason why I want to do this Lumen project. You know, I am scientific, I've got a rigorous academic background, but I've been in sessions where I have felt nothing that I've ever felt. You know, I've taken hallucinogenic drugs. I've altered my state, and in fact nothing has been more powerful than doing like a rebirthing breath work or having a kundalini bodywork session. The states that my mind has been able to go into has been just undeniable and really powerful. So I think whilst it's healthy skepticism is good, if you really shut yourself off and just say that energy work is all woo woo and all rubbish, it will be, when it can actually be really, really interesting and maybe the key to you feeling better. Well, I really love Goop and Mind Valley, and they were both inspirations for this project. But I guess I see this as a bit different in that I want to take you on my own journey of personal development. You know, I am a therapist, I've got all of this experience dealing with problems, learning about different modalities. So I see myself as a bit of a highly skilled critic. You know, I hope that I'm going to be able to answer the questions that you want answering. Um, and the other thing as well, I am willing to be really vulnerable. I think with being a therapist, I've always felt the need to hide a lot of aspects about myself, not talk about my own problems, and, you know, stay really guarded. But with this project, I really want to let you in. I'm going to show warts and all and see whether these transformational workers can help fix me. Ah, well, I really love all my guests. So I moved to Phuket about 4 years ago. And I've just met the weirdest, wackiest people here. Maybe people who were really successful in business and then decided they were going to scrap it all and go on a spiritual journey. So I've befriended some of my guests and I've really got to see firsthand like how they live and breathe what they do. Um, I also have been traveling a lot to Koh Phangan, where people work every single day with energy work or with their healing modalities, but they don't really promote what they talk about very much, mainly because they're hippies living in the living in the forest. So for a long time, I've been really passionate about shining a light on their work and seeking them out so that they can share their amazing skills. The third thing is that I'm actually, although I sound very English, I'm actually, half French and half Caribbean. So for me, this very Western centric view of mental health has never really sat comfortably with me. So I also am committed to getting guests from around the world. So my dream would be, to go to the outback and spend time with an Aboriginal witch doctor, or, go to the far flung corners of the world to really see how do we heal in other places and other parts of the world. I do worry that sometimes I might not want to say that something wasn't very good or that I didn't feel much of a difference. But part of this whole journey is also my journey. So I want to be a little bit more confrontational, a little bit more analytical. I am a chronic people pleaser. And of course, after sharing this intimate kind of moment, therapeutic moment with somebody, I might feel as though I don't want to say that I didn't think it was good, but it's imperative to my project that I'm as honest as possible. And I've really challenged myself this year to be authentic. And to be honest, just because it didn't necessarily resonate with me, it doesn't necessarily mean it wouldn't resonate with somebody else. But I'm always going to try and give a fully honest and transparent critique of what I experience. For me, so far, the most transformational one was the Kundalini bodywork experience that I did with Jaleesa. I, even now, I actually feel like I'm going to cry and I've got chills. That experience has stayed with me 3 weeks on. At that time, I couldn't even talk after the session. It was so overwhelming. I saw um, the spirit of my grandma and all these past souls. I felt for the first time like I had an experience of mediumship, which I've never had before. Um, I felt like my body was moving like a goddess and the snake energy was coming out. I mean, it was just so intense. And the interesting thing is, for the past 3 weeks, I've been feeling really happy as well. I've been driving to around and just I've been late, but I've been feeling fine. Like I'm going to get there in perfect time. Or I've been noticing how wonderful the sunshine is. I've been connecting to people. So that was so powerful, that session that I had. Yeah. It is difficult to blend science with spirituality, but I think that there are some practitioners, such as Tara Schwartz, who's already started to do that. So she's already been a bit of a trailblazer. She explains, for example, if you manifest something, then you might be looking for clues in your physical world. So, yes, one element is woo woo and spiritual, but one element really can be justified by science. Um, I think in this project, for me, it's about balancing science with taking a leap of faith. We can't understand everything. So, for example, if I phone you on a mobile phone, I don't really understand how that message is exactly getting to you, how our voices are connecting, but they are, and it's undeniable. So I think sometimes we don't always need to understand the science in order to believe that it works. I'm one of those extra kind of people. So when I arrange something, I want to make sure that you have not seen these things before. So my retreats are going to be different because I have gone out of my way to interview, to experience the most transformational healers and practitioners from the corners of the world, from the darkest bits of the forest, and I want to bring them to you so that you can actually experience them for yourself. I also think that this community and tribe of like-minded people that I've been building are a really special one. People that work with me are very successful, very switched on people, but they're searching for more. They're questioning, they're curious. What else is out there? And I think that makes for a really interesting group of people. And finally, I guess I'm not your conventional psychologist. I love to have fun. I think that we don't have enough like joy and pleasure in our lives. And this is about really stripping back how you have fun. People rely so much on getting wasted or maybe taking drugs. But when you're really connected in on a tropical island, dancing around the fire to like live bongo drums, I think there's this sense of aliveness that's really hard to get anywhere else. Mm, I love that question. The honest answer is I can't guarantee that my retreat's going to be transformational. And this is something that I really dislike about people making bold claims. They say, oh, just pay, give me your $1,000 and this is going to change your life. For me, I don't see it that way. I really believe if you show up to something with the intention to transform your life, with the open-mindedness to fully give something a go, you most likely will see transformation. But if you want to come to a retreat, you want to be closed-minded, super skeptical, really rigid, and do everything in the same way that you did before the retreat, I doubt you're going to see any transformation because you're not going in with that right mindset. So I guess there are a few things I can guarantee, that the venue is going to be amazing and all these things, but the transformation that you're going to get is equal to the how much you embrace the experience. Well, the honest answer for my mix is that these are all the things that I love. And I'm hosting this retreat, so I'm putting in the best of the best. When I go to Koh Phangan or to Bali or on my retreats, I look around and I think, what did I enjoy the most out of this experience? And I'm basically handpicking these things and putting it in my retreat. Um, yeah, so I hope you like it. Yeah. So the people who usually attend these retreats are people maybe at a bit of a crossroads. Maybe they've built their business to a certain level and they don't know which way to turn next. Perhaps it's someone who's a bit stressed out, working in the city and doesn't really have enough connection to nature. Um, Also, some of the people who come to my retreat are looking for a real deep sense of connection. So they've got friends, but maybe conversations feel a bit surface or businessy. So they're just looking for this real stripped back, transformative experience. Um, I think a lot of people as well live in their male energy. So what I mean by that is that sense of always like driving forwards, gotta accomplish the next goal, gotta get the next paycheck. And that can be really exhausting. So a lot of people have high stress levels, high cortisol, and this is an invitation to enter more into your like female energy or your more receptive and creative energy and just allow things to flow without always having to drive and get it and reach for it. I love that question. I think that most retreat organizers don't dare to be bold. And to be honest, for me, I'm petrified of being bold. I've got a 15-year career as a science practitioner, a reputable therapist. So honestly, I'm afraid to introduce people to these more esoteric and different methodologies. But I've challenged myself this year to not be scared. I really want people to come and have the weekend of a lifetime, to be introduced to things that they would never dream about trying. Often in therapy sessions, what people love the most are those slightly different, slightly unique interventions. And I know that that's because it really cuts through the wishy washy, bland nature of a lot of therapy and yoga practices. So I really want people to think less and feel more. I think in this world where we're so plugged into our phones and our computers and our AI realities, we're so in our head. And what about feeling alive in your body, in your heart? I think that we're really also experiencing this epidemic of loneliness. And it's really hard for people to deeply connect in person through a hug, an embrace, because we're just primed to connecting with them virtually and typing. So for me, I want to create spaces that people feel alive. I think the first step is always to stop, breathe, and listen. So we're often in this busy brain, do. What's next? What did I forget? And actually, if we stop, close our eyes, breathe, we can start to listen to our intuition or our gut. And the more that we practice this, the more we can actually tune into where we really want to go. Or maybe, if you're more mystical, your higher path. So right now with the Lumen project, I'm busy filming the docu-series. I've got an amazing lineup of very transformational, very out there, and also very famous guests coming on the pod. So that is really exciting. I've also got a new sleep meditation to help you really visualize that life that you want for yourself, and using nighttime as the best time to do that when you're in this theta brainwave. And finally, I have 3 upcoming retreats. So details for the retreats will be on the website, so you can join in and come along, try it out. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the couch. I hope that you found this interview was interesting. If you've got some questions that you'd like to ask me, please drop it in the comments and I'll make sure to make another video answering your specific questions. If you want more information about anything we discussed, the link to everything are in the show notes, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care.